bogged down in sectarian, mundane considerations. The process that awards the highest perfection of life should be considered the most auspicious for human beings. The Varnasrama system is the most scientific presentation of religiosity on the earth. I'll repeat this. The Varnasrama system is the most scientific presentation of religiosity on the earth. And those who are most perfect in that system come to the point of Krishna consciousness, or dedicating everything for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. So this is Lord Krishna replying, beginning his reply to the answers presented by Sri Uddhava. Uddhava, we should know, is most intimate associate of Lord Krishna. Uddhava was that personality who was chosen by Lord Krishna to be the last one to whom the Lord spoke to. So very, very confidential associate of the Lord. And of course, Uddhava is asking a most relevant question. Relevant question means questions that have to do with what the goal and the purpose of life is all about. So therefore, anyone who asks such questions to devotees become very pleased, and they become very happy to speak on the subject matter. This was nicely explained actually in the 7th Canto, when Narada Muni was speaking to Yudhishthira Maharaj. One of the important instructions given by Narada Muni was that those who are devotees, smritam chat tadvidam rajan yena chatma prasidati, those who are actual devotees, smriti means to remember. They constantly try to remember or keep in mind what is the primary goal and purpose of life. And therefore, they welcome such opportunities to discuss the subject matter so that they can further become enlightened, isn't it? So in the text itself, Krishna is replying, your question is faithful to religious principles. These are the type of questions that one should ask one's superior, especially Guru. One should ask pertinent questions, not mundane questions. And in the text also, a very nice point being made, that your question is relevant for both ordinary human beings and the followers of the Varnasrama system. Actually, most people don't follow Varnasrama system. Most people don't know about Varnasrama system. But for either ordinary human beings who don't know about Varnasrama, who don't know about Dharma, or for those who follow the system of Varnasrama, the goal is actually the same, as mentioned here, to reach the highest perfection of life, which is pure devotional service. So in the purport, some nice points are being made here by Srila Prabhupada. The process that awards the highest perfection of life should be considered the most auspicious for human beings. So whatever activity will give us the highest result, the best result, that should be considered the most auspicious activity. So this is the point being made here, that actually there is a system whereby all of one's activities in the material world, it can be arranged in such a way that they will gradually lead one to the perfectional stage of life. Very nice sentence here. The Varnasrama system is the most scientific presentation of religiosity on the earth. Now that's easy enough to say, but we have to kind of unpack that for most people. Everyone appreciates the word scientific, and therefore, what is from our perspective as devotees, those who are followers of Vedanta, from the perspective of the Vedantists, what is most scientific is this very system of Dharma, which includes, of course, Varnasrama Dharma, and which culminates in the eternal Dharma. The eternal Dharma. How did Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu define the eternal Dharma of the living entity? Huh? I can't hear.
Nitya Krishna Das.
Yes. Jiver Swarup Hoy, Krishna Nitya Das. Nitya Das, eternal servants. That is the eternal Dharma, actually, of the living entity. So it means that actually we as devotees, when we read this, well, first of all, we must recognize that this is directly spoken by Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the best of all authorities. So when he says that the Varnasrama system is the most scientific presentation of religiosity on the earth, then we should readily accept that. And of course, we should also be making efforts how to understand it. We can accept statements, but to really enter into the meaning of such statements requires some effort on our part. That effort is very much connected with our level of purification. If our consciousness is more purified, then by the grace of Krishna, by the mercy of Krishna, he will help us to gain more clear understanding of this point. Yeah. So these two things. One is that the Varnasrama system is the most scientific process on the planet. Number one. Secondly, those who actually take up the process, those who are most perfect in executing that system, they will come to the point, to the perfectional point of Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada defines Krishna consciousness as one who dedicates everything for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Bhaktaram Jagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheswaram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatvamam Shantim Vitsiti. So this is the first statement, a rather important one, made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So naturally we should be attentive when great personalities like Narada Muni speak, and we should be equally, if not even more, attentive when the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself speaks. Yeah. So in other words, our challenge, for example, in hearing this from the Bhagavatam is how to realize, how to understand the scientific nature of the system of Varna and Ashrama. Because if we don't understand it, if we don't have deep realization about that, which will naturally bring a deep conviction, we will not be able to execute it or to put it into practice. We will not be able to convince others of what Krishna is telling here. So just one last point before we go to the next verse. There seems to be from the text, where in the text it mentions that there are two types of persons, ordinary persons and then followers of Varnasrama. That means that there's three types of persons. There's those who are, we say, karmis. Then there are those who accept the system of Varnasrama. They are not karmis, but they still have some contact with the modes of material nature. The karmis are, of course, they don't even know about the modes of material nature.
And the Varnashram who are following also are karmis. How they
the idea is that those who are completely covered by and conditioned by the modes of material nature, they are mainly, primarily in darkness, controlled by the modes of tamagun, mode of ignorance. Whereas someone who takes up the process or accepts and applies the system of Varnasrama, we cannot say that he's karmi.
karma yogi.
It will depend on his level of consciousness, because we know our more recent acharyas, beginning from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, have spoken about Daiva Varnasrama, isn't it? So within Varnasrama, there are different levels. One can be a karmi, one can be performing or following Varnasrama for some material motivation, which is, at least he's following Varnasrama, or like people are following the Vedic injunctions, although motivated, because they're following Vedic injunctions, they will gradually become purified. So in Varnasrama, if one is fortunate to know about the process of bhakti, so that is the type of Varnasrama that we are trying to promote, that ultimately is being presented, where one performs so-called material activities, but dovetails those for the satisfaction of Krishna. So we cannot simply say or conclude that if one is following Varnasrama that he's a karmi. He may be, but he may not be also, isn't it? The text itself is telling, in the purport rather, here it mentions, and Prabhupada